I was pretty confident in my opinion that I would enjoy every NASCAR race until we reached Texas in May. I would have bet you a lot of money that Martinsville would be the one that broke that streak, but it did. Last night we watched a Martinsville race that I mean, man, I haven't been that for the first 80 laps. It was Martinsville night, so I was excited because I always like the Martinsville night race, but as the race went on, I started to realize, as I think you guys did, something was wrong. It was very dull. Now, I do want to point out I'm mostly a neutral fan. If I do root for anyone, it's pretty much any Hendrick Motorsports driver, probably Elliott and Larson above the other two, but I don't have a favorite driver. I don't root for a specific driver. So I will be very clear when I say you can essentially enjoy every race if your driver's in it, because I was part of that when I was a kid and I was watching Jeff Gordon. Unless Jeff Gordon DNF'd or he was running 35th. Wasn't there like a Texas race where he was running 35th? But yeah, unless those two things happen, it doesn't really matter how bad the racing is, because you're always like, can my driver make up spots? But when you're a neutral and you watch for this, for just the racing, these races get really tough. They get really tough because you don't really necessarily care about a specific driver trying to make up spots or something, and you want to see good racing. And Martinsville has always put on a good show, and this one did not work out. My lighting is completely messed up, and that little bit of light might help. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit whiter now. Who cares? As you can see by Jeff Gluck's poll here, I thought it was a bad race. I didn't know it would be in the 80s on the no category. I wonder when that finishes where that would rank in his poll. But definitely the worst Martinsville race. So instead of complaining about it and whining about it and saying NASCAR sucks, let's actually talk about it, analyze it, and see what we can do to, figure out why it happened and how to fix it. And so we're not going to talk about the race that much, guys, because I'll be honest, there was nothing to talk about. The amount of lead changes was very little. I think just how many lead changes were there? It was definitely in the single digits, I think. It was a bore fest. Nothing of any note was going on, and I don't want to say it's because of a lack of cautions or something. It's not that. It's not like there was a lack of wrecks. There were some bump and runs. There were some, some hard racing, but there was very little actual short track racing. And I noticed it when in the second stage, Chase Elliott caught Bubba Wallace and ran behind him for the next 40 laps. And I was very confused by that. I was like, are they just friends? Is Elliott like just staying behind? But no. Joey Logano spoke after the race that he was faster than Austin Dillon, who, by the way, had a great run. We will talk about some drivers, by the way, that had great runs. But he was faster than Austin Dillon, but he couldn't even get to him. Actually getting to him was very difficult. And then trying to pass him was a whole nother ballgame. Now, the thing about Martinsville that we usually like so much is that Martinsville is hard. It's hard to pass, but that's what makes it good. So you can run up on someone and you can get the drive up off the corner, and you can lay a bumper to them and you can pass them. It's not impossible. To be fair, it's not even that difficult, but it's not easy. It's not like it's not like Richmond where if you catch someone, you could just pass them within, a split second. At Martinsville, you have to set it up. You can't just blow right by them. You got to set it up, and that's the great thing about Martinsville. But for some reason, in last night's race, whether it be dirty air, whether it should be the drivers, well, it was dirty air. It was Aero tight, which was very odd. The lap times were not that much faster than normal. The cars, compared to the old cars, looked fine. But let's talk about, main talking point number one, and we need to talk about it, which we don't talk about a lot, is Goodyear. It's the tires. I'll be honest, I'd like to see this changed in the future. You guys know how much I currently love how Formula One are doing things, but in Formula One, you do know before the race starts exactly what compound of tire Pirelli wants to bring out. They have a C5 through a C1. C5 is the softest, C1 is the hardest, and Pirelli will tell you, we have these 5 sets of tires for all these types of different tracks, and this is what we're bringing, so you, the fans, know what is going on. With NASCAR, you usually don't get that information, unless you are die-hard, deep into it, trying to find information via Bob Palcrass on Twitter. You really don't know exactly what tire compound the teams are bringing because it's never really brought about in the broadcast. It's never really talked about. So we usually don't really know how soft a certain tire is and all the intricacies of the tire. The tire at Martinsville usually lays down rubber. and usually has a good amount of fall off. You always hear about drivers trying to save their tires and save their rear tires, specifically at Martinsville. None of that was being talked about yesterday. There was only about half a second of fall off, which about around Martinsville is nothing. And Logano was talking about how it was essentially, F1 has this problem too, is that they were just overheating the front tires, not the rear tires. They were overheating the front tires when trying to catch someone, get aero tight, have to back off, cool the tires down, and then attack again. You hear that a lot in F1. You hear about overheating the tires when you're trying to attack someone. You don't usually hear that in NASCAR, and when you do, it's not a good thing. Usually you need to hear at Martinsville. You want to hear about the rear tires that are degrading, and you have to save them. You have to manage them, and that brings comers and goers, and that brings the ability to pass. Because if you fade your rear tires, if you wear them out, then someone behind you who has that traction and that grip and drive off the corner, they will pass you. That's how you set up your passes at Martinsville. This car and this tire specifically had none of it. I don't think it's a car issue. I think it has clearly improved intermediate racing, but we might have an issue at the short tracks. And the reason why I say that is just because the Coliseum was not that great of a race. The Richmond track was not that great of a race. Now, Martinsville was a really bad race. That's 3 in a row. That's sample size. It's a small sample size, but it's a sample size. But I do think the focus has to be on the tire. And why was the tire not laying down rubber? And why was there only half a second of fall off? Goodyear just simply has to bring a more aggressive, softer tire. I do find it a little bit annoying that when I do watch a race, unless I have to look for the information myself via Twitter, you don't really know what kind of tires being run. You don't really know, it's a fine line. You can have a track like Richmond where the tire wear is insane, but then it makes it too easy to pass. Now, I think that's more of a track issue, not a Goodyear issue. But then you come to Martinsville where it's not a track issue, and really it shouldn't be a car issue, but the tires don't wear out. And so, I think Goodyear holds a lot of responsibility and a lot of accountability for what happened last night as to why the drivers just simply could not go anywhere. They couldn't pass anyone, and they couldn't race like Martinsville wanted to race. I do think in another aspect, the visual aspect of the racing was a little bit different because, this next-gen car is a lot more durable. You can hit someone with the wider tire, and, you have to really hit them. I think Clint Boyer was talking about it on the broadcast, that you have a lot more stability in the car because the tire is wider, so you have a lot more grip. Well, technically grip. I mean, you feel planted to the track. So drivers really have to hit each other to move each other out of the way, and, that's just not – you don't usually do that. I think you saw last night with 70 to go, there was a little bit more aggressive driving, but these cars, in a weird way, are so durable, and you have to really hit someone that it kind of gives off this different perception in your mind that you see all these cars and they all look really clean, right? When usually at a Martinsville race, your fender's bent up and this is bent up and your rear end's bent up, but these cars, they're so tough with the composite bodies that maybe that was also another thing as the fans didn't like it, is that you're asking drivers to be really aggressive, and sometimes that could actually, they don't want to do that. They want to race each other respectively, respectfully, which is how it should be. And so it was just different. And then, the third thing is just, I think, the aero tightness of the car. We have to do this more, go to short tracks a little bit more, see what is causing the severe aero tightness. For the first time at Martinsville, they were shifting, downshifting in every corner, upshifting coming up and off the corner, which again I think did play into a part in, like I just said, the drive off up off the corner. That's a really tough phrase for me to say, but I don't know if the shifting gave them more grip or what it was, or like I said, just the wider tire gives you more grip. And if you don't have the tire wearing out, or if you don't have the tire wearing out like it should, especially the rear tires, if only your front tires are overheating and your rear tires are fine, that's a problem. It looked like a lot of times last night, drivers were just tight. They did not look loose. I did not see guys coming up off the corner and looking loose. Everyone looked like they were just really tight. And, that's a big problem. Overall, it was a really bad race, guys. Let's quickly touch on the top 10. You could see here, William Byron did win. He becomes the fourth winner for Hendrick Motorsports, fourth win, third driver to win. Chase Elliott still has not won a race. We'll talk about him in a second. But it was a good race it was a good race. But I mean, all I'm saying though is they didn't really. There was no real battles. Elliott led the first half of the race, and William Byron led the second half of the race, and it was just kind of that's it. I don't know what else to say. Like, good job to him. It's not his fault the race was poor, but good job to him. And Byron might be showing something. He has 2 wins on the season. Let's see if he can keep it up. The thing about William Byron is he usually is always lacking something in the race to really propel him, but he's getting to that stage of his career where I want to see it now. I don't, it's time. Getting to the playoffs and getting to the round of 8 or something, it means nothing. You're William Byron. You dominated the trucks. You dominated the Xfinity Series. Now it's the Cup Series. It's time to show up. I expect you to be a superstar level driver. Joey Logano, Austin Dillon, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain. No real surprises there except for Austin Dillon. Had a very, very good run. Best run I've seen from Austin Dillon in a long time. Because Austin Dillon, he runs like 10th. And then he'll get to 8th. And then he'll maybe get a top 5. But this was an actual really good run. Started 23rd, drove his way up through the field. One of the few guys that could really pass his way through the field. And was really fast. Just was not fast enough to get up to the front. Ross Chastain, don't sleep on this guy, man. He's on 5th. Is it too early to talk about championship possibilities? I mean, it sounds kind of weird, right, to put Trackhouse Racing in a championship possibility. But, I mean, man. 3rd, 1st, 5th. Very impressive. Ryan Blaney, he will win a race eventually whenever that team will, help him out a little bit. Didn't have the fastest car, so he'll get there. Kurt Busch with a good run. Best run of the year for the 45 team. Kyle Busch, Eric Almirola, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, round of the top 10. Kyle Busch, the sole Joe Gibbs racing car because they struggled. They were really bad. Christopher Bell had a good run, but then fell off at the end. But yeah, Denny Hamlin went a lap down early on. Truex was nowhere to be seen. Joe Gibbs Racing's really weird this season. They either all suck or they're all really good. I don't really know how it goes. And Chase Elliott, let's quickly touch up on him because I will say there's a chance at the end of the season you see a crew chief change because that 9 teams leading the points dominated the first half of this race, fell off, pitted, lost track position, and then in a race where you knew you couldn't pass, could only fight their way back up to 10th. I like Alan Gustafson. I think he's a very smart, very good crew chief. But I have been saying this for years. He makes some of the dumbest in-race decisions I've ever seen. I was a Gordon fan, so I saw it firsthand. I've seen it with Elliott. He's a really good crew chief. But there are times where he's very, very, how do I say it? He's very 4 tires or nothing. I will pit my driver for 4 tires, and I will trust him to drive from 15th to 1st. And he does that no matter what the track is, whether it's a road course, short track, intermediate, and he just will always do it, even if tire wear is non-existent. He's been like that for years. And honestly, let's just keep Gustafson as the crew chief and then let someone else make the decisions. That would be the easiest way to do it, because he is really poor at making decisions on the top of the box. Just keep an eye on that. If Elliott goes winless in the season, gets knocked out like round of 8 or something, crew chief change, very likely for the 9 team, I think. Be probably pretty likely. And then let's actually look at through 11th through 20th. I usually don't do this, but Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman, Eric Jones, Kevin Harvick, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Keselowski, who was running top 10 early in the race, then fell off. Reddick, Larson, Bell. Going to talk about Kyle Larson soon. He's struggling a little bit, but this is a track where he usually struggles at. But we'll see. Larson's, ever since that win early in the season, he's been struggling. Christopher Bell was running really well all race, fell back to 20th. A few disappointing results here, and guys that, really should be doing better. And nothing really to talk about there. Overall, guys, what did you think of the race? If I had to rate it, 3 out of 10. Maybe 2. It was really that bad. And you guys know me. I've enjoyed every race this season. And the streak broke at my favorite track, which makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. Let me know what you thought, guys, of the race. It was awful, but let me know what you thought. Comment down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. I will see you guys tomorrow. It's going to be a different type of video tomorrow. We got to talk about MSG. There's some things going on around them, but I want to clear up some of the rumors and just kind of give you guys what I know that's happening and what I think is true and what I think that's false and what I think that's absolute BS and what I think that, you might want to keep an eye on. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.